Question number 7 is in the name of Deputy Maureen O'Sullivan.
Thank you. My question is a follow-up to a question in December, and it's looking at the extent of government funding for the greyhound industry, particularly in light of falling attendance numbers at meetings.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Count Corla. Bord na Gán is a commercial state body established in 1958 under the Greyhound Industry Act 1958, chiefly to control greyhound racing and to improve and develop the greyhound industry. Greyhound racing is a traditional industry which plays an integral role in rural society and the economy. Successive governments have recognised the importance of both the greyhound and horse racing industries for our country and have supported them through legislation and policy initiatives down through the years. In a report in 2010 by economist Jim Power, commissioned by Bord na Gán, it was estimated that the greyhound racing industry was responsible for sustaining in excess of 10,000 full-time and part-time jobs, directly and indirectly, many in rural areas and in rural communities, and injected an estimated €500 million into the local economies. The greyhound breeding industry is also very export-orientated, with over 75% of greyhounds now running in the UK being Irish bred. Since 2002, well in excess of 10 million people have attended greyhound racing meetings. Attendance at greyhound racing has declined over the course of the recession. Greyhound racing was not immune from the impact of the downturn, and in particular, reduction in consumer disposable income, emigration and the collapse in the construction industry. Also, over the period of the recession, government support for the industry was reduced significantly, which coincided with the effects of the economic downturn. Bord na Gán has, however, informed me that consumers and fans of greyhound racing are now consuming the sport differently. With growth in social media and online distribution of racing generally, audience engagement is expanding. They state that the attendance at greyhound stadia has stabilised in more recent times and saw an increase of 1% in 2016.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy O'Sullivan.
That between 2006 and 2016 there was almost 140 million that was given by the government to the greyhound industry, and even though there was a slight decrease during the recessionary budgets, since 2014 it has been on the increase both in 15 and in 16. Now in 2006 there was 1.25 million people who were attending, but since 2008 the numbers have been decreasing, and in 2015 some 600,000. The number of meetings has also decreased by over 500. Sponsorship is falling, and also the number of greyhound owners. So I just like just a couple of points. I'd like you to clarify if the Greyhound Board has published their 2015 accounts and if they are published publicly. But my question really is, are you compensating for the drop in attendance and the number of meetings and sponsorship and owners by increasing the funding? And I'd also like you to clarify those numbers that are employed in Bord na Gán, because that 10,000 back in 2010 seems a bit excessive. And my last point is, how much are both the Greyhound Board and the Coursing Club, how much do they contribute to animal welfare for those greyhounds who are abandoned?
Thank you very much. Deputy Minister.
I mean, the basic premise of your question is that it's better if something is sinking, you should just pull away money. And there are problems in the greyhound industry, and in the last Dáil, we actually, as an Agricultural Committee, did a report on it and made some recommendations. And one of the things is that we do need new robust legislation which will be introduced very shortly. I hope to have it agreed with my colleague with the Cabinet, so it can be forwarded to this current Oireachtas Agriculture Committee for pre-legislative scrutiny, which sets about better governance, financial structure and control and regulation. And yes, it does need increased consumer participation, but it needs that based on confidence. I think if we just simply say, well, because it's declining, we should pull the money on it, is sort of contrary to most principles, is that if something is in need of assistance, we should continue to support it so that in time it can actually operate independently. I think this is a critical juncture, by the way, and I think it's up to all participants in the industry, and I would say that to the industry itself to engage in this and to ensure that the industry has a future. As for the numbers, maybe it's 2010, but it's certainly still a significant contributor to rural communities.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy O'Sullivan.
In 2015, Minister Coveney, in a PQ reply, said that €100,000 was received by the coursing club for the Greyhound Board. So I do hope the relationship between the coursing club and the Greyhound Board is very much separated, because I know greyhound owners who have their greyhounds for racing. They do not agree with live hare coursing, but yet their fees are going into supporting an industry that they don't agree with. And I do think that has to be clarified. We know the live hare coursing started in Clonmel last week, and RTE showed a clip. But they actually said before the clip that it would be too disturbing for some viewers. Now they didn't, they actually showed a censored version, and when some people rang up to know why was it a censored version, they were told that it was too bad to show. Now if the full clip, uncensored, had been shown, it would have shown the greyhounds tossing the hares, mauling them, and really shown what live hare coursing also includes. So I come down to this, that in your report and what you're hoping to go forward, I do hope that there can be a separation between those two bodies. And you might just say, how much exactly has the Greyhound Board given to the coursing club over the past few years in terms of loans and payments?
Minister, to conclude, please.
The last question, I don't have the figures off the top of my head, but I can get them for the Deputy, certainly. I wasn't in attendance at the National Coursing Championships in Clonmel. I understand that no hares were killed in that. Whether that's going to answer the Deputy's question or not, I feel that if you were to ask the coursing club and the Greyhound Board, do they want to stay separated, I'd say they probably would agree with you, that they certainly want clear, distinct lines between their roles and functions. Some people who are greyhound owners may indeed would rather that there was no live coursing, but others don't. And I mean, I think that's governed by other legislation, by the way, animal health and welfare legislation primarily. So there are other pieces of legislation which protect the welfare of all animals generally. Coursing is part of and has been part of the tradition. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is and has been part of it. So I think it's easy to sit up here and judge people.
Thank you, Minister.
People up here not always maybe doing things that are compatible with country life either, but I don't hear them quite so judgmental.
Thank you, Minister.